Hello and welcome to Comrades, a weekly discussion of the FX series The Americans. My name is Scott Malchus. I'm the editor, TV editor of Poptos, not the editor, just the TV editor. And with me is Jeff Marsick, comic book writer, screenwriter, everything guy. Jeff and I have recently done... This is terrible, this is awful. Let's keep recording.
Yeah, I was going to say everything guy. That's my superhero costume. It's a big E.
A big E. It's only across his face. Jeff and I previously worked together on podcasting on a weekly podcast for Southgate Media for the American Horror Story Coven. That was that went from the fall to January, and we had such a good time that we thought we'd continue podcasting together for another Americans. This one's just The Americans, and so far it has been completely a wreck. Jeff, how have you been?
People
it doesn't sound like we haven't recorded in about 6 weeks, does it?
Oh, no, not at all. People turn to this for the first time and be like, who are these morons that are just yapping away about... Trust me, we're a lot more polished when there's an actual episode we have to talk about.
And when we're doing it week to week.
Yes. So we're a little out of practice. But, so The Americans comes back next week, the 26th.
Let's just jump right in. This is kind of our introductory episode, or our preview episode, because season 2 begins next week, as Jeff said before I interrupted him so rudely, and which is nothing new because I do that all the time.
It happens all the time.
Yes. For those of you who are just listening because you love Jeff and myself, who are you? But The Americans is an hour-long drama on the FX network. The first season aired last year around this time. It is a period piece, period near and dear to Jeff and my heart, because
the 80s, baby.
It takes place in the 80s, the early 80s, when we were not quite. We were actually. At this point, we were like 11, 12 when this series takes place.
Yeah, it takes place in 81, so yeah, we were 11.
Yeah, so, but it's all about two KGB illegals living in the United States posing as the typical American suburban couple. They their names are Philip and Elizabeth Jennings are their American names. They're played by Keri Russell, the lovely Felicity, as everybody remembers. But we all know she can kick some butt because she was in MI3 with Tom Cruise and the late Phil Seymour Hoffman. And Matthew, I want to say his name is Rhys.
I think it's Rhys.
Might be Rhys. I think you're right. Who previously was seen on Brothers and Sisters in the States, but he's not American.
No, he's not.
He is. Is he Scottish? I don't know. His accent is. He's got a very cool accent. It's very disarming when you see him on like the FX behind the scenes stuff, and he starts talking. You're just like, why is that guy talking in an accent? And I like, oh, that's what he really sounds like. That's how good he is playing an American, because
that's how I always get caught that way with Damian Lewis on Homeland as well. When you hear him in a regular interview, he's. Talks with his British accent, or Dominic West.
Dominic West, yeah. I was thinking of Dominic West today because in this series, Philip and Elizabeth are constantly putting on disguises and playing different characters. And there's an episode of The Wire where Dominic West was supposed to play a Cockney guy. Do you remember that?
Oh, really?
He's supposed to go undercover into a prostitution ring, and he's like, well, we'll put on a Cockney accent. And so I think West talked in his regular voice, and the other guys on the show goes, that is the worst accent ever. What are you doing? It was a great joke. And anyway, so now, Jeff, can you... I know Philip's Russian name is Mishka. Is that right? Misha? It's Mishka. Because the CH is a hard CH like in my name. So that's Mishka.
Okay.
Come on, you know all this.
I run things through Google Translate. I don't actually know Russian. I fake it.
Well, what about what's Elizabeth's name? Is it?
Hey, look, wait. The other thing is, I picked up a little bit of Russian along the way from Colossus in the X-Men comic books.
I thought with your military background in the late '80s, you might have had a little run-in with someone who's like. Was that you were in post Cold War, weren't you?
I was, yes.
So I guess you wouldn't have gotten it.
I was also in the Coast Guard too, so we didn't really, mix it up with, Russians or.
Weren't they trying to swim across from Russia to the main border?
Yeah, we weren't picking up. People, diving off, swimming for Alaska from Kamchatka, and then bringing them back.
I don't know why that's so funny. All right, Elizabeth's name is Nadezhda. Oh God, this is horrible.
Nadia.
Where I would go. Yeah. Okay. Well, they're known as Philip and Elizabeth Jennings. They are travel agents, which is a good cover because it allows them to go across the world. They've got tickets all the time because they're travel agents, right?
Yeah.
And they have 2 children. They have a 13-year-old daughter named Paige, played by a wonderful young actress named Holly Taylor, and they have a son named Henry, played by a young guy named. I'm going to mess this up. Kedrick Saladi. How's that sound? Does that sound right, Joe?
Close enough.
I wanted to say something. Anybody who watches the show will note that the 2 young actors who play the kids are listed in the front credits as main cast members, even though their roles are they're not heavy roles in throughout the season. I think they had one particular episode where they were featured heavily, which is the episode with the hitchhikers, which scared the crap out of me. That episode had my stomach and nuts. But I think that it's important because I bring it up because those characters of Henry and Paige, I believe, are going to be more important in season 2. Season 1 was pretty much like an examination of marriage. It was a season-long type of theme was marriage, and from what I've seen about season 2, the season 2 theme will be about family, and especially how they ended season 1 with Paige's growing suspicions that her parents are telling her the truth about everything. I think that's going to come out. So I don't know why that was cool to me. I don't know. Anyway, the Jennings live on a small street in the D.C. area, and when the show begins, they get new neighbors, the Beemans. Stan Beeman, who's played by a character actor named Noah Emmerich. And Stan is an FBI agent. Whoa! Intrigue! Intrigue!
That's right.
Is living across the street from the illegal KGB agents. And Stan has spent a long time living undercover, I believe, with white supremacists.
Yes.
And now he's come back and he's getting a desk job, and that desk job just happens to be in counterintelligence, tracking down illegals in the United States. And Stan's long-suffering wife is named Sandra. She's played by a great actress named Susan Meisner, and they have a son. And that's the core of the show, I'd say. Those characters, and then on the periphery, we find out that this is one of my favorite parts. Is that Philip has a secret relationship with a woman named Martha, who works at the FBI. She's a secretary for a director of the FBI named Frank Gadd, who happens to be Stan's boss. Isn't that awesome? And Martha is in a relationship with Philip, but Philip is going under the fake name of. It's Clark, yes. So it's Clark. He's developed this relationship with Martha, telling her that he works for the government and he's in a secret subcommittee tracking all activities in the FBI, and she's gullible enough to fall for it. And
she is clearly the most gullible character on TV that we've ever seen.
She is pretty gullible. And by season's end, in order to convince her to start doing stuff for him, Clark marries Martha, and even though he tells her that I can't live with you all the time, I'm only going to be able to spend a few nights. I'm only going to spend a few nights, be able to spend a few nights with you here and there. But
and by the way, you can't wear a ring because they can't know that we're actually married because they'll give it away.
Yes. So it's actually it sounds preposterous, but in this show it's great because it's the way they kind of just like throw little things out at you to keep you going, to keep you pulling you in. It's like that little dollar bill you're chasing with the storylines. You think they give you just enough to keep you intrigued, and then the next episode they give you a little more, and you go, "Oh, that's awesome."
Well, that's the thing about going back to Martha, Philip in his disguise as Clark, he has her do these errands right under the nose of everybody. Plants a pen on the desk that has a microphone in it. Makes copies of things on the company copier right there in the office. Yeah. She almost gets caught doing that. And there's all these little things. And even though and I wouldn't come out and say that she's dumb, but because she does kind of catch on just a little bit. She's like, that doesn't make sense. But then he kind of sweet talks her. Well, I'm super top secret undercover, and they can't know about this. And she's sitting there again, like you said. This is the Cold War, where back then we were suspicious of everything. And you know what? That might be possible. I think we as a society were more gullible to things back then than we are now.
Right.
And so Clark is able to. She's simple, and because I think again, it's one of those things. As we talked about, that this isn't necessarily so much a spy show as it is, as Joe Weisberg said, that it's international relations is an allegory for human relations, and you've got Martha, who's so in love with Clark that it blinds her to the truth. Well, love is blinding, Scott.
It's interesting too, because I was thinking, as you were saying, I was like, oh, she's lonely. I was thinking she's lonely. Yet she had a suitor in this guy named Chris Amador, who was played by Maximiliano Hernandez, who was Stan's partner, and Chris had a thing for Martha, and she just didn't dig. So she just didn't dig Chris. So you can't really say that she's lonely, or maybe nobody's paid attention to her the way that Clark focuses on her, makes her feel so special. And
I think that's it. Yeah.
And he's so smart. Like when what I love about these two characters is like when they're throwing a curveball, their brains are already thinking 3 steps ahead. And a good example is that Philip gets called over to Martha's house. Oh, by the way, Martha's played by an actress named Allison Wright. She's really good in this. She's great. All the cast of the show is fantastic. I can't think of a single character on this show that makes me go, oh, that should be. I can't believe they have that person playing it. Yeah. Every character, including in particular the children, the young actors are great. They are fantastic, which is tough because sometimes actors come off a little precocious, especially in period pieces where they're just being fed what was going on in that era. These kid actors are really, really good. But so my point was that Phil comes over to Martha's, and the door opens, and he's like, what's the big panic? What's the big panic? And it's like her parents are there. She's secretly invited her parents to meet him, and the whole time he's there. Oh, by the way, did you know who played her father? Was the dude from Three's Company?
Kevin Kline. Richard Kline.
Richard Kline from
Larry. Yeah.
Larry from Three's Company. But the whole time he's there, and he wants to leave, and he's feeling like, oh, this is crap. And the whole time he's been plotting what he's going to say to her, and so that when he gets out the door to say, I got to go, I'm sorry, I really got to get back to work, and Clark and Martha are standing outside the door closes, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so blah, blah. She's apologetic because it seems like he had a bad time, and he just puts his finger over her lips and says, your parents are wonderful, and it just melts her. It just makes her feel so special, and he just knows how to manipulate her, and that's it's such great characters. Well, evil characters, but I don't even. It's weird. They are anti-heroes, aren't they? Because we're Americans, and they're the enemy. Our enemies.
Well, this is a great show. What I was thinking about, in the preparation for our podcast today, I was thinking about the show and thinking about the characters and everything, and it is a classic. This is a classic root for the villain. Kind of like Breaking Bad. You're rooting for you have to root for the bad guys here, and you're drawn to their relationship and you want their relationship to work out and their kids and all that stuff. But wait, they're Russian spies, for crying out loud.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because the way they set it up, and they did a great job in the pilot, and this is really smart, is that Nadia and Mishka, I'm sorry if it's not Nadia, but we're going to call her Nadia, okay? I'm sorry. They get pulled out of their lives, whatever their lives were in Russia,
Right.
And they were basically told, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be KGB undercover agents. And so that was done to them at a young age when they're impressionable, and they know nothing else. So in a way, they've been forced into becoming soldiers.
Right.
So it's smart because unlike, say, Breaking Bad, where Walter White goes so dark, but you've been along for that ride that you're kind of rooting for him, it's like Scarface, these characters have a human, there's a part of any of us that say, well, that could have happened to any of us, It's
Right.
the U.S. could pull me out of high school and said, you're going to go work undercover. And, if your parents are going along with it, which is the case of, Mishka and Nadia, there's a, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a sympathetic part to them that you kind of almost forgive them for being that way because you see their backstory. If we'd never seen how they got to be where they are, I think it would be tougher to root for them as heroes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I also think the other thing as well, and it came up in one of the episodes, it came up in the Trust Me episode, which was probably my favorite of the season, where in that episode, Philip gets kidnapped and he gets tortured.
Oh, yeah, that's a great episode.
And it turns out that it's the KGB torturing him just to see if he'll break, and it was kind of like a test, which I thought was dirty pool on the KGB's part, but and both of them thought as well. But for him, his drawback is there's features of both Keri Russell and Rhys they're characters that I like. One is that Keri Russell, what I like about her is she's such a strong female character, but she also has this, even though she, like you said, she was pulled from an early age to be this child soldier, she has a devotion to the homeland. She's not buying any of this stuff that goes on over here. It doesn't matter. Nothing clouds her judgment. She is all about the homeland and Mother Russia.
Right.
Her husband, however, you know what? I kind of like it over here. I kind of like the American stuff. And that was when her bosses asked her, hey, how's your partner doing? She was like, well, he kind of likes it over here in America too much.
Right.
It doesn't taint he's still about the mission, but he's more about the family and about just being a part of what's wrong with being, assimilating into American society here.
Right.
And playing with this stuff over here, but yet we can still be dutiful to the cause. And I love that interaction between the two of them because she's so hardwired that it's all about the mission and Mother Russia. And he's like, you can have that, but you can do this. You can eat your cake and diet too, kind of thing.
And what I liked about especially with Elizabeth over the course of the season is that softened. And I think that they did a really smart thing between the pilot and the first episode, the second episode, is that they did soften her a great deal. In the first episode, she was just hardcore mother country, I don't care about anything else. And by the second episode, you saw a lot of that mothering side of her, and you saw a softness to her, because I don't think that they could have carried a whole season of her being, badass KGB killer. Nobody would have stuck with it,
Right.
And plus, Keri Russell's too good of an actress not to take advantage of her being able to flip back and forth, being angry and being the hardened agent. And we know, and there's a reason why she's so hardened, is because, as we learned in the pilot, she was raped when she was a young girl by one of her superiors, and that was just the way it was. That's what her superior, the just general, that tells her, it's like that we were just given permission to rape the girls if we wanted to, which is harrowing. And so you understand why she's so hardened, and Philip obviously did not experience something like that. But there's a loyalty between them that she starts to understand throughout the course of the season. And that loyalty, she starts to see that loyalty is also love, and she does see him loving her. And it's cool, and like I said, she starts to soften. She starts to understand that she has feelings for him. She starts to regret that they just set up this marriage and didn't give them a chance to know each other. It was an arranged marriage, And I think the key episode is the one where Philip goes to New York to see his old Russian girlfriend. And Irina, yeah, he goes to see her. And what was that episode? Gosh darn it, I don't know what that was. But he goes to see her, and after the episode, there it is. It's Duty and Honor is the episode. And while he's there, Elizabeth, when he gets back, Elizabeth says, Did you sleep with Irina? And he says no. And then later on, she finds out that he lied to her. And that sense of betrayal that she has, she's putting forth an effort to make this marriage work. And when he lies to her, it just shatters everything. And then it all comes back together, like at the very end of the season when he moves out. And when he's not there all the time, she realizes, wait a minute, I really do love him. And I think that's it. Just her character arc throughout the season was great. It's fascinating.
But isn't that funny how I thought it was funny about how did you sleep with Irina? No, and then when she finds out yes, then she gets all mad. And yet she uses sex as a weapon.
Right.
She knows he uses it as well. Well, that's okay.
But this was emotional. This was emotional sex, and because she knows he sleeps with Martha.
Right.
She knows, but it's not the same. That's part of the job. But but with the ex-girlfriend, that she was, the one that got away basically. And
right.
Harry is sleeping with her, and so she knows that there was some emotional feeling behind that sex.
So the other challenge that she has was recurring through the season was her children. So she was never maternal. Kids were that was just part of the cover. I'm going to pop out 2 kids and we're going to have them. And then as the season goes on, she starts to kind of soften towards them and realize, hey, you know what? And she stumbles along the way in a couple of those episodes trying to be a mother. And the kids are even kind of looking at her like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, this is like what moms do, and...
Yeah, and I think that's what they started in episode 2, is that they started to build this relationship between Paige and Elizabeth, which was, and that's the age, a girl is 13, she's starting to come into to being a woman, as they say, and, that was an interesting relationship because Paige is, like you said, she's becoming a woman and she needs her mother at that point. That's dad. You can't relate to any of that stuff.
Did Paige have her first period?
I don't think they covered that. Maybe they did.
I feel like I remember that in an episode. Like she had it, and that was like a bonding moment because Philip was like, "I don't know how to deal with this," or either that or I'm making it up. But I feel like that might have been something.
I have to go back. I may be forgetting that. But regardless, I mean, you saw those two start to bond, and when they decide to separate, and the reaction of the kids, it was really interesting because at some point this marriage is almost over, and Philip and Elizabeth decide we're going to go live apart, and when they tell the kids we're separating, Dad's going to go live in a hotel, the reaction, the way the kids react, and the way we see how it affects Elizabeth is very telling about how much she loves those kids and how much she cares about those kids, and you see that at the very end. I think the last episode of the season, for those of you, the very last episode, Philip and Elizabeth are supposed to go on these 2 separate missions, and one mission is to go see this colonel to get information that's like this top secret information that basically I think it was revealed as a Star Wars program, right?
Yeah,
and the other one is to go get this car where they've had a bug placed in Casper Weinberger's office, which is great. And and what happens is originally Philip was supposed to get the car, and when they thought the colonel, this go to see this colonel, was a setup, but it turns out it's the other way around. And but the whole episode is basically the two, Philip and Elizabeth, talking about if this goes bad, thinking that it's the colonel mission. If that mission goes bad, you need to get the kids and you need to get out of here. And it's like and the two of them, the conversations are so well written in that episode between Philip and Elizabeth, talking about the future of their children, and who do they need more. And there's a scene where Philip Philip takes her Elizabeth aside. It's like, look, I get it. You think that the kids it's easier for me because the kids are, they want to be. I'm like the fun dad, is what he's kind of saying.
Right.
They want to be with him, but it's not true. They need you. You're their mother. They need you. And it was just at that moment, it was nothing about spies or anything. It was just about this family and what was important. And I think that's what I really love about this show, is that they take this, heightened period drama about, spies and cloak and dagger and world on the brink of nuclear disaster, and they really, bring it back to what the core of it is. It's just about family, and it's about family and marriage and trust. And I think every episode gets better. There was a few episodes in the middle where kind of like, okay, these middle episodes are still trying to find their footing, but like the last 4 episodes, I just thought, just balls to the wall, awesome. And just made me go, I can't wait till what happens in season 2.
Well, it's funny because when it started, when the show started, it seemed like they were the dysfunctional family.
Right.
The KGB agents, and they're dysfunctional. Oh, and look, the grass on the other side of the fence is are the Beemans, right?
Yeah. But the Beemans are way worse trouble.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Here's this guy. He's an FBI agent, and he's got this pretty wife, and he's got this son, and boy, everything just seems to be okay. And no, not at all. They've got, and so on that side, you've got Noah Emmerich, who, man, can you find a better person to play the everyman than Noah Emmerich?
And he does this thing too. He plays it so stoic, but he does. I don't know if it's. He does this thing where his face.
The twitch.
The twitch. I love the twitch.
The twitch is awesome.
When he's starting to when things are starting to go bad, he's got this little twitch. It's just a little thing. It's like almost a little grin, and it's like it's so great.
Yeah, I always wonder if he does that, or if it like consciously does that, or it's just his body just reacts. But yeah. And then, so he's a fantastic character, and, he gets darker as the season goes on. When he starts off, he's just Mr. Clean, basically, except when he breaks into the house, Philip and Elizabeth's house, and he goes into the trunk.
He suspects them, yes.
Which I thought was, okay, so when I first saw that,
This is the pilot.
This is the pilot. He suspects, something's a little off with his neighbors. So one night, he basically breaks into their garage, goes into the trunk where they used to have the Russian...
This Russian general, the guy that actually had raped Elizabeth, yes.
Like an hour, 2 hours before, he was in that trunk.
Yeah.
So Stan Beeman shows up, breaks open, gets the trunk, looks around, doesn't find anything. Now, I thought that whole thing was like kind of implausible and just, okay, whatever. I thought that was a stretch. But he closes the trunk, closes the garage, walks out, and what's the last thing is the camera pulls back. What's the last thing you see? You see Philip standing there around the corner with a gun. He knew, he was ready to put Stan down right there.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was. I agree. There was a little a little bit of movie magic going on there, but I let it go because it's the pilot, and you're just like trying to get people coming in, and then it's funny because Stan's suspicions after he went into that trunk gone. Didn't even, which is funny because by the end of the season, and maybe this will come back in season 2, but at the end of the season 1, Stan and the FBI have found out that there's a couple that are these KGB agents, and he doesn't even put it together that it could be his neighbors. It's very interesting.
But it's funny how he just gets darker as the season goes on. So
he gets darker. Why, Jeff? Tell us why he gets darker. Come on, give us the reason. What's her name?
Oh, Nina. Annette Mahendru,
who does not have an accent, because I saw behind the scenes footage with her. Her Russian accent is great.
Oh, her Russian accent is great. Yeah, that's right. I looked her up too, going, she's got to be Russian because it's too spot on.
Joe, who else isn't is the guy who plays Ivanovich, her superior, Lev Gorn. I just saw behind the scenes. I think he's got like a New York accent or something. I was like, my face was away from camera. This guy's talking. I'm like, oh, who's that? I'm like, what the heck? That's that Russian dude.
I love Nina. Nina's first of all, she's gorgeous, and she's got that accent down. So, the whole thing is Stan being in the FBI, and they're just, man, they're trigger happy. They're like right on the edge to like, there's been a couple times when they're just, okay, we're basically going to go kill every Russian we see just because. Well,
that's because their leader is Frank Gadd is a total Reagan foot soldier. He's played by Richard Thompson, John Boy, for anybody who doesn't know, but Richard Thomas. I'm sorry, I said Thompson. It's Richard Thomas, who's awesome. Awesome playing against type. He's great too. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, Stan's partner too,
Amador. Yeah.
He the triangle that gets wound up here. Amador ends up running afoul of Philip and Elizabeth, not because of not because he figures out that they're KGB,
but because he's got a thing for Martha.
Yeah, because the love triangle between Clark, Martha, and Amador.
It's awesome.
And that tweaks, losing his partner, knowing that something happened to his partner, that tweaks Stan. And I tell you what, in the episode Safe House,
yes,
where so the mission was that when this guy Arcady from the embassy, when he goes for a run, they're going to snatch him. FBI is going to snatch him. They're going to hold him. They're going to do a trade with the KGB for Amador, because they know the KGB's got Amador.
They think the KGB has Amador. That's the best part of this whole messed up storyline, which is so smart. It's like this whole thing is a mistake.
Yeah, they've convinced themselves that the KGB is Amador. So you know what? We're going to snatch Arcady, and then we're going to do a trade. Well, Arcady's like, I don't feel like going for a run in the park today. So they send out, this other guy, Vlad, goes out there, and they snatch him instead. And again, Noah Emmerich and, playing Stan Beeman, he's not bumbling, but he's not, that's the thing about this show. That's the thing about the show is that they're spies. Nobody's a James Bond type. Like, they're doing spycraft, they're doing, tradecraft, they're doing all the things that spies do, but nobody's the super badass.
The closest would be Elizabeth. She's pretty bad.
She is, yeah.
But like Philip makes mistakes, Stan obviously makes mistakes, and he leads with his heart, and that's what happens.
But when he's got Vlad in the hotel room,
is it Vlad? Yeah, go ahead.
And he's talking with them. Hey, what do you know? Yeah, I'm KGB, but I don't know anything that's going on. I don't know anything that happened. And Stan says, "Hey, you want?" I think he says, "You want something to drink? Sure. I'll have a Coke or whatever." Walks behind Vlad and then
Vasily. His name's Vasily.
Oh, was it Vasily? I
yes.
thought it was Vlad.
I think it's Vasily.
All right, whatever.
I don't know.
That guy. It's a V anyway. Okay. It's a V anyway. And he turns around and shoots him in the head.
Yes.
that was a holy crap moment.
That's where we really see Stan's dark side. We got hints of it. They talked about, his time that he spent undercover with these white supremacists, and he doesn't talk about it. He won't tell. Like, I think Philip asked him once, what was that like? He's like, I don't talk about it. I mean, and his wife doesn't even know what went on. He was just gone. So.
And she talks about and she mentions the good times, or she references, the time before when she tries to get close with him and he kind of pushes her away. So yeah, he's definitely affected by his time. And if anybody's been watching True Detective, you know that, doing some undercover work with, a bike gang or, supremacists. Yeah, you get a little.
You get messed up in the head because you went. Well, it's like you start in order to sell yourself for the mission, you have to do whatever it takes, which is another theme of this show, really. I mean, Stan did whatever it took before he became counterintelligence, and, Elizabeth and Philip, are doing whatever it takes. Philip has married, Martha, and Elizabeth sleeps with all these dignitaries in order to get information and stuff like that. They do what it takes for the cause. And we see how that really messed up Stan. And we see that when he kills the Russian guy whose name starts with a V. Sorry. So those are kind of the main characters. And what happens is, Stan also begins a relationship with Nina, and the Vasily. I think it's anyway. The dead man was good friends with Nina, and by the end of the season, Nina realizes that Stan was the one who killed her friend. And I guess we should explain it. Nina was turned into a double agent. Double agent because Stan caught her buying stuff and sending it back to Russia, which is a crime. And so she doesn't want to go back to Russia. So he says, "You're going to work for me now." So he has her getting information, basically doing what Martha's doing. She's a mole. She becomes a mole, and
in the Russian embassy.
In the Russian embassy, and she almost gets caught a couple times. And in fact, she sleeps with her older superior at the beginning of the season, and she tells Stan, "I slept with him," and Stan's reaction is like, he's so like he wants to do the right thing. This is the interesting thing about Stan is like he really wants to be doing the right thing, but he's kind of stumbling through it, like you said. And so by the end of the season, Nina realizes that Stan killed her friend, and so Nina goes to Ivanovich, her boss, Arkadia Ivanovich, and tells her, "I've been sleeping with an FBI agent and taking information for him." And she says, "You can send me back to Russia, and I will accept my punishment, or you can let me restore honor to my country and let me become a spy for you, so she can become." Was that a triple agent? What is that? I don't know. What do you call that, Jeff?
Yeah, a redoubled agent? I don't know.
A double agent would be where you're working for one and then you're stealing and giving to the other. I don't know. I expect you to know all this stuff, man. What are you doing to me? I'm just the guy that talks out of the side of his head and just keeps going.
Well, she's not a double agent because I guess she is a double agent because she's now working for...
Okay, she's a double agent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, she's a double agent.
There's two parties, she's a double agent.
And that's kind of where this... And so that's kind of... I think that's an overview of the season we got there.
We have to talk about one more character. One more person who's one of my favorites on the show. Margot Martindale as Granny.
As Claudia. And I don't know if she's going to be back, which is a drag because she's so great in this series. And by the end of the season, she comes in and the scenes that she has with Keri Russell are the best, man.
Oh, my God.
Keri Russell
awesome.
is so mean to her. And by the season's end, that was, again, another example of the way this story shows these complex characters. It's like the whole season long, Claudia, a.k.a. Granny, and Elizabeth are at each other's throats. They hate each other. And Claudia tries to convince Elizabeth, it's like, "Look, I'm a woman in the KGB. I've been doing this a long time. I'm trying to be your mentor." And Elizabeth's like, "Screw you. I don't want you to be my mentor." And it gets to a point where it's actually Claudia who tells Elizabeth that Philip slept with his old girlfriend in New York City. And by the end of the season, you almost think it almost feels like Elizabeth resents Claudia for telling her the truth.
Yeah.
That, you came between us. You did it on purpose. You knew that he did it, and you couldn't wait to tell me, is what she's saying. And so they hate each other. I mean, they hate each other. And
well, it came to a head with the episode Trust Me, where I talked about the KGB interrogates Philip, and then they bring Elizabeth in, and Granny comes out, Claudia comes out, and she's just like, basically, I just wanted to see if you guys were going to fold,
right?
Whose side you're on or whatever. Keri Russell puts on a beatdown of Margot Martindale, and it was just like, it was awful. Like, sticks her head in the bucket, and Philip's, she's going to drown her. She's going to drown Claudia. Philip's the one who has to step in and be like, "All right, enough,"
yeah.
and like pull her off. And a couple episodes later in Covert War, there's a great line in there. Keri Russell, she's sitting in the car with Claudia, and I think it's the mission that they're this because the Colonel was the double mission. She wanted to kill the guy.
I just had to explain to our audience that we're trying to cover 13 hours of television in 45 minutes here. So Jeff's like, "This is the episode where, remember that time?" So
this is the third from the end.
When it's a week by week thing, we'll be a little more focused.
Yes, but no, she had a great line where she just emotionless and just with hatred just dripping off her. She looks at Claudia and she goes, "This isn't going to go well for you, old lady."
Yes, I think that was the second to last episode. It was that episode where they kidnapped the CIA guy, and it was that episode where a group of KGB high-ranking KGB officers were assassinated in Russia.
Yes, that's
and
right.
One of them happened to be Elizabeth's mentor, who was also Claudia's good friend. And so Claudia basically sets up Elizabeth to kill the CIA operative who called that in. And that I think may be one of my favorite episodes, only because of the Pete Townshend song in there, which I want to touch upon before we go off.
Billy Squires
Dude,
in the dark was in there too.
I just gotta say, okay, now that we're on it, first of all, the music in this show is fantastic. This is a tangent. I'm sorry. Music in this show is fantastic. They really do a great job of making this thing period piece reflect the real 80s. If you want, you can read. I did an interview with them for Pop Dose, where I interviewed Joe Weisberg, who created the show, and Joel Fields, who's the executive producer and the fellow showrunner, and they talk about how dedicated they are to making this a period show, and that includes the music, And so in this episode, in that particular episode, excuse me, the episode opens in a disco, and I don't know what music's playing, but it's like typical late 70s, early 80s disco music. It's the end of that era's falling. There's still disco music then, and it's just a singles bar, and then later in the episode, when Elizabeth decides she's going to go seduce the CIA high-ranking official and then kidnap him, it takes place in it looks like a congressional bar. I mean, it looks like a place where congressmen and CIA agents just happen to go and hang out. Now, this particular bar, when she walks into it, Billy Squires in the Dark is playing. Now, I don't know that it's playing over the jukebox. Now, here's my thing. I don't think that song was ever released as a single. Okay, so if it was the B-side of, let's say, The Stroke, which was one of Billy's great songs, what a hip person in the bar to know to put In the Dark on. But then later in the scene,
hold on, wait. I just interrupt you real quick. For those of you listening, you can't see us. Scott and I are doing this over Skype, so I see him in the camera, and me, and he's very animated right now on the other side. Like, I can't. It wasn't released as a. And you think this was? I'm looking it up on the internet right now as he's talking on my iPad. So continue.
Oh well, then later on, it's a Pete Townshend song comes on, and it's the song "Rough Boys," which is the first song on Empty Glass, which is one of his best songs. Oh, I got it, I'm wrong. It was a single. Wow, I'm totally blown away. But here's the thing. Rough Boys was a single in 1980, okay? What Republican, because this is a Republican Congress, what Republican bar is going to have Rough Boys still sitting in a jukebox 2 years after it was a single? I don't know, but it was a great...
I don't know. That's a little...
That took me out of the moment. I'm sorry. No, that was my favorite musical moment of the entire... The Tusk thing at the beginning of the show. They used Tusk in the opening.
Yes.
That was phenomenal. Awesome. But the thing with Rough Boys... Well, the Rough Boys thing was great. That was phenomenal because they timed out the use of Rough Boys. And Rough Boys, anybody that knows Pop Dose and will know this, and people in Southgate Media, you need to check out... the song. It's just one of Pete's best. But they timed out this whole sequence to that song so that at the end, Elizabeth is in this bathroom and she's getting it on with the CIA official, and excuse me, and then they get in this fight, and they've timed out the song until like the last remaining moments of the fight, and then Philip comes and opens the bathroom window and they pull the guy out of the bathroom. It's timed out perfectly to the end of that song, and the end of that song has these beats that goes dun, 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 dun. It's just driving to the end, and it's just so well edited, and the music is perfect, and it's just like that was my favorite musical moment of this season. That followed by Tusk, and then Games Without Frontiers, which is the last moments of.
That was good one too.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a tangent. I'm very sorry.
So I got a question as a film director yourself. How do you do a scene like that? How do you make it line up beat to beat so perfectly with the song? Are you playing the song as you're filming it?
Well, it's easier now because they can do stuff like that in Final Cut or in an Avid. You can what you've got now is you've got a wave bar. They've got the song timed out when you're editing it, so you can see where the high points of the song are, and you can just kind of slice the picture and put it, okay, I need this beat to be here, I need this beat to be here, and you're listening to the song, and you're just basically looking at it over and over again. You're saying, beat there, okay, smash him in the face here with a big beat there, so that you're listening. The guy editing it has listened to the song numerous times. He's looked at all the footage numerous times, and then they're just tightening and tightening and tightening until you've got each little point in the music that you want, and you know where you would need the song to end. And you'll note that in that particular sequence, the song begins while they're in the bar, and there's this little innuendo that goes on that Elizabeth is saying to that CIA guy. She's like, I wouldn't have figured for a Pete Townshend guy. I thought you might be Air Supply. And the song is playing for this long sequence. And then she says, follow me to the bathroom where they're gonna go get it on. And at that moment, there's a cut. And you cut away to Philip, who's in a car waiting. He told her, I'll give you 20 minutes, and then I'm going to come to the bathroom door and we'll drag him out. Well, when they cut, it's just silence because he's out in the car. He's just waiting. It's like silence, 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 silence. And then they come back to the bar again where this music song is supposed to be playing in the background. And if you go back and rewatch it, you'll note that what they did is they cut in the actual track. They cut a part of the song. So they used all of that introduction, the song comes on, she's in all that stuff, the song is playing it in real time. Even her walking back to the bar, it's all in real time, real time, real time. Then there's that cut, which is a breakaway from that action. And then when we come back, I can guarantee you what they did is we need the song to end when the guy's out the window and the window slams and we cut to black, So What they did is we've only got this much time for the scene we only have this much, we got 2 minutes for the rest of the scene. So they took the song, they said, this is going to be our last shot of the sequence. They put the end of the song there, and they probably worked backwards to find a point in the song where they would pick up the song.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's how they do it now. I mean, it was way more difficult when you're editing on a reel and you've got a soundtrack that you have to edit as well, and you're marking things on tape. It was way more complicated back in the day when it was reel to reels and stuff like that. Now it's a hard job because you're still editing and trying to find a creative beats to all the music and everything. But it's been simplified for editors and for sound people because of technology. So that's how you do it. And wow, that was long. I hope our listeners got something out of that. I hope they.
Yeah, seriously, because that was 5 minutes. So.
Oh, look at that! It's almost 45 minutes. Sorry.
Well, it's funny how we just talked about the music of this. Yeah. Wait, you got something to say before?
No, I was going to say what I love about another
before
thing.
I take my 5 minutes?
I'm sorry. I'll take another 2 minutes. What I was going to say is that's another thing I really love about this show is the cinematic value of this show. And we kind of talked at length when we were doing the American Horror Story thing about how there's a visual style to that show. This show has its own visual style, but it is very cinematic. I think. It just feels like a real movie. Like American Horror Story feels very stylized, and that's cool. I love that. But this feels like I'm watching a movie every week. That they're really shooting something incredible. Plus, it's a period piece that just blows me away too. And just everything behind the show just gets me excited. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
To kind of piggyback on that, what's interesting is watching the show, and like we said, we're children of the '80s, and we're watching in the rearview mirror. We've lived through all these events, right? So, in particular, I can't remember what episode it was, but there was the one episode where Reagan gets shot, which was actually it's 4 episodes in the episode In Control. I wrote it down, notes. So Reagan gets shot on March 30th, 1981. Okay, now we know about that episode. We know about that incident. We lived it. We were 11, so I don't know how much we really paid attention to it at the time, but you're watching an event like that unfold now through an adult's eyes in the rearview mirror. So there was chaos at the time because Reagan got shot. James Brady was declared dead numerous times, and then later on, we don't think he's dead yet. Well, he's kind of dead. No, he's not really dead. And then Alexander Haig was suspected of throwing a coup because he just stepped forward and was like, "All right, I'm in charge now."
Right.
And everybody was like, Vice President Bush was, I think, down in Texas at the time, and people were like, wait, Haig, you can't be in charge because, there's hierarchy. And so it's just interesting watching all this stuff, things like this unfold, as it pertains to the story. Like when they declared, when the thing came up on the, and I think they were using real news footage too.
I mean, I think they were, yeah.
And they said, James Brady's dead. And I was like, wait, no, he's not. And I had to go to my iPad to look up, wait, no, he's not. And then you see how it unfolds as time goes on. And it's an interesting contrast about how things like that, incidents like that unfolded back in the day as to the instantaneousness of how events unfold today, Twitter and Facebook and everything.
Right. Yeah. There was what I liked about that episode too is a side that as the American public, I'm sure never saw, which was who is the man responsible for shooting the president, and part of they took the storyline of was this a Russian, was this a Russian attacking?
Was it a KGB? Yeah.
Was this an act of war? Which we were 11, so all we knew was like the president's been shot. Oh dear! But that was an obvious fear. It was just a threat of war, and there's a key thing about which we haven't touched upon is when Reagan came into office, he ratcheted up the Cold War rhetoric. He was like gung ho about the Russians are the enemy. They are they are an evil nation, and so that fear was there the whole time. And I think that's when I interviewed Weisberg. I had he was said and the bonus features of the season 1 talk about this. That Reagan was like, we're bringing down the Russians. Use whatever means necessary to bring them down, basically. Because relations between the Soviet Union and the United States had kind of cooled throughout the 70s, and Reagan came in here and said, nope, this ain't right. What are you looking up? You checking my history?
No. So Scott just saw me pull out my iPad. I'm looking up. No, because something just hit me. There's a voiceover. There's a whatever you call it in Def Leppard's "Gods of War," where they've got Reagan saying they counted out America to be passive. They counted wrong. It just came to me. Well, I got to see when he said that. I wonder if he was talking about. I think he was talking about the Russians.
I'm sure he was. I mean,
Reagan.
Yes, you're looking up Reagan.
No, it was Libya.
Oh, okay. But that's this is what he was. This is why they wanted to set the evil empire. That's where the evil empire came from.
Well, and
that's Reagan called them the evil empire, and he just kind of pumped up that. And I can tell you from my own memories of being a kid, is that. I had an older sister, and she was just scared to death that we were going to go to war with Russia. She was scared that there was going to be bombs dropping, and my brother was going to get drafted, and there was going to be this war. And I was like, I was 11. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was scared. That's how real this feeling was amongst adults and the relations between the USSR and Russia. And we didn't go to the Olympics that one year because of Reagan and Russia. Russia invaded Afghanistan.
And it's funny because
I don't know if that's.
So the big topic at this time that they're talking about or they're trying to circumvent is Star Wars.
Right.
Not Luke Skywalker Star Wars, but the real Star Wars that the Reagan era put up. And it's interesting too. Where real life or the real life events affect the family. Just to back up is Keri Russell is very all about Mother Russia, blah blah blah. But the kids only know themselves as Americans. They don't know their parents. They don't know their Russian lineage either. Right. So what happened in 1980? What was the big event that happened in 1980? Well, the U.S. beat the Russians in hockey.
Right.
So I think the son he's all into hockey, right? And
yeah.
And his idols are the U.S. team, and I think isn't there a clip there, or there's something that happens where he's like cheering on the U.S. team, and Keri Russell's just she's so disgusted by her son.
Was that in this?
I think that was in an episode.
I think you're imagining stuff, Jeff.
I think I might be making the stuff up too. Sounds good.
There was a hockey in an episode. There was hockey in the last episode where they're watching a hockey game between. There was NHL hockey, but I don't remember that USA because this takes place after the 1980 Olympics.
No, right. But there was something about he was cheering for like an American over a Russian, and it didn't sit well, or he was. I think I remember something like that. Either that or my imagination is just, off the charts.
Okay.
It happens.
Well, all right. Well, I think we've rambled on long enough. This has been just an overview of season 1 and season 2. From what I've seen, it definitely seems to be it's going to be about family. The previews that I've seen for the season already, which could just be the first episode, they're really sneaky. It's like, oh, we're going to show you all this stuff. You think it's all part of that whole season. It's actually just everything in the premiere episode. But it definitely feels as if Henry and Paige's lives are going to be drawn into the fire, so to speak. Their lives are going to be at stake now, whereas beforehand, Philip and Elizabeth were able to keep the two things separate. We have our country, mother country KGB stuff, and then we have this other thing. I personally, that is going to be intense because, like I said, the episode with the hiking freaked me out.
Yeah,
that was an episode where Paige and Henry got stuck at the mall, and so that Paige decides she's going to be a grown-up and hitchhike home, and then this creepy guy picks him up, and Henry acts like a hero and smashes this creepy guy who's going to hit on Paige over the head with a bottle of beer, which is awesome. Henry's cool. But I just, for me, it's like they're such cool kids, and they're played so well, and especially with, it seems like, Philip's going to be moving back into the house, that's just going to rip their family apart. If anything happens to one of those kids, I'm going to be pissed, man. Angry man. That seems, so that to me is what I'm interested to see where that goes this season. I'm interested to see what happens with Martha and Clark. So I don't know how long that can go on. How long are they going to play that out until Martha catches on, until, and part of me just wants, I get that. I like that whole secret part of it. And the other part of me is like, I did a little dinging noise. The other part of me is like, I just don't want to take away from the other characters in their life. I like seeing what's going on with Philip and Elizabeth. That interests me. What's going on with Stan and Nina and Stan and Sandra. And by the way, just my last point about season 1, it's in that same episode where they kidnap the CIA guy. There's a fight that happens between Sandra and Stan, in which Susan Meisner she does so much good stuff. She comes home, she's been drinking. Stan finally comes in and she calls him out on all his lies, and her anguish just keeps building and building until the end of this scene where she has to run out of the room crying, and it's like she's trying to get words out and she can't get them out because she's so upset. And I don't know what they wrote in the script, but that's all in the acting. It was just so well done. And I was just like, oh my God, she's so good to just be able to tap in. Because we've all been there where you get in a fight. You're just so overwhelmed and you just want to leave and you're like trying to say, and that's, she does it a lot better than that. So, yeah. That was terrible. That was awful. Sorry. Those are the things I'm looking forward to. Someone wrote a thing on the Popdos website after the interview saying, how long can they keep the show going on? He hoped that they keep it going on until the wall falls. And then Elizabeth is just stuck looking around going, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And that would be cool if they could keep the show going to a point like that. That's 10 years, they have to cover before that wall falls, But
unless you do it kind of like Mad Men, and every year is like a jump forward a couple years.
They could,
but I don't think so.
Yeah, we'll see. They could. It depends too, because if
cut the kids out,
if the kids get big, if the kids grow, they grow up like beanpoles, and you're gonna have to account for that.
Yeah,
and you can't have them get kidnapped by the others like they did with Walt on Lost.
That's right.
What are you looking forward to in season 2, Jeff?
Everything you just said.
I want more good tunes. I want.
I'm looking forward to the soundtrack. Every episode.
What I love about the music is they don't go for the obvious choices. It would be so easy. And Billy Squires is a good example. I know this is going to be crazy, but the fact that they use In the Dark instead of using Stroke, to me, it was like, okay, these guys actually know who Billy Squire is. They're not just pulling some song. They actually used to listen to that album, that they knew the songs on the album. And I like that because it's like, okay, it really is authentic. It's not just like people who were born in 1990 trying to make an 80s movie, and so it's like, oh, well, everybody listened to Aha, and everybody listened to Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Oh, there's the early 80s. Well, everybody listened to Whip It by Devo. It's like there's a
it's like when you go out and you back in the day when there were CDs, and you'd go out and buy a CD of 80s hits.
Oh yeah,
and they were like the same 20 songs,
and it's still
in a different order.
It's still that way. And that's what I do like about this stuff is, there's an authenticity to this. It's not just a bunch of guys, like I said, trying to make an 80s show. This is people that lived in that time who understand it. And they understand, they should point out that Joe Weisberg, the creator of the show, is a former CIA operative who decided, who's working, so he has some knowledge on how these things operate, so.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
So what everybody should do as listeners of the podcast should check out Scott's interview with Joe Weisberg and Joel Fields. Joel Fields on
really
Pop Dose. Yeah, it's good. It's a good interview. So check it out on Pop Dose, and I think we got a link on the Facebook site too.
We'll put a link on the Facebook site. Yeah. Okay, I think we've rambled on. Don't you think long enough, Jeff? I think
I think so.
We've given new listeners a taste of what it's going to be like. Hopefully. We'll be a little more focused when it's just an episode, and we don't have to try and cover so much ground. But I hope everyone will come back on a weekly basis for the next 13 weeks after this one. Yeah.
And if you're new to the podcast, if you download it on iTunes, leave a rating for us. That's how we kind of gain exposure on iTunes. Is how many stars we have. And then
and you could also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes.
That's right.
So that you don't. So it'll just automatically download when a new one goes up. And we're pretty regular about going up. I think they'll go up on the weekend following the following. We record these on Fridays, so it'll go up probably Saturday following the episode. So.
And then also, Scott and I say this every week on the Facebook page. Leave comments. If there's something that we missed, go ahead and make sure we know about it. We have an email address too, and I can't remember what it is. I think it's comradespodcast@gmail.com.
That's pretty good.
I'm going with that.
Shouldn't we look it up? Maybe I'll look it up while you do a little more talking.
It's on my desk, but my desk is not near me. So. But yeah, so send us emails, or if you don't want to leave something on podcast. We've got a Twitter handle too, which is I think Comrades Podcast.
Everything you say is I think it's this. I'm not sure.
And yeah, that's about it.
All right. Well, before we go, I need to say that Scott Malchus is an employee of Cartoon Network and the Turner Broadcasting System, and the opinions expressed in this podcast are my own and do not reflect those of my employer. I have to say that every week, and I'm saying it now.
I basically say whatever I feel like, and I'm beholden to nobody. So, and also I wanted to say to people listening, if you're a comic book fan, check out the comic books I write for, Dead Man's Party, about a hitman who puts a contract out on himself at deadmansparty.org, and then my adventure story about a female zombie who leads a special ops team of ancient Chinese warrior spirits. That's at zgirl.org. And also be sure to check out southgatemediagroup.com that has probably 24 podcasts covering all kinds of shows. I also am on the podcast for Biters, which is a Walking Dead podcast, and they've got Doctor Who, The Shield, not The Shield, Agents of Shield,
Ooh, the Shield with the Agents of Shield would be interesting. Probably make a better show.
No doubt.
I didn't say that. I'm sorry.
Yes, you did.
Anyway.
But those opinions are your own, and not those
of Southgate Media. And if you're on Poptos, please check out all the other cool stuff on Poptos because it's a great website. And it's nice to be able to kind of cross promote the two channels here together. And also there are advertisers on both web pages. And if you see advertisements, please click on the links if anything interests you because that ad revenue helps keep the websites up, man. I really appreciate it.
All right.
And on that note, Jeff, I would like to say I will talk to you next week, and everybody have a great week. And next week we'll have an entire new episode. Season 2 begins with the Americans.
Which is what the name of this podcast is Comrades. What's the name of the first episode of the second season? Comrades as well.
Whoa! I didn't even know that. That's kooky. Well, I didn't know that, Jeff. Thanks for sharing that with me.
And on that note,
I didn't know that. Have a great week. Bye.
All right, take care.